Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while, but as always I'm Craig Patterson. Today it might well be deadline day, but we're not talking about transfers on this one. We're back to talking about the Scottish national team and the upcoming and really important friendlies. Well, not friendlies of course. Keep thinking it's friendlies, are not friendlies, are far from it. The big semi-final of the Nations League playoffs, plus the two follow-up Nations League games to follow against Israel, Slovakia and the Czech Republic, following one by one. 3 games over this one as opposed to the usual 2, but we're going to be previewing it, we're going to be seeing how the squad looks out, we're going to be seeing how exactly we'll be setting up, and we may also be chatting a wee bit about certainly Israel, what they offered, what they might offer, and certainly maybe looking ahead to the other 2 games as well. As always guys, if you want to leave a like on the channel, if you want to subscribe for more episodes, I'm definitely going to be trying to uplift and bring back the video content. I'm going to be maybe looking down more the lines of match reports from around the European leagues, or whichever games I can follow whenever I can, as well as some informative stuff as well. I'm deciding to scrap the blog online. I've taken away, I tried to do some the other day and it's just not really working. There's some kind of faults going on online. I'm taking that away. Going to be going back more to the video stuff, so I'm really going to be trying to put a video and edit and upload, perhaps maybe certainly a few times a week if I can, maybe even every other day, but something along those lines I'll be looking at in the near future. So guys, Scotland will face Israel this coming Thursday at Hampden Park. Very similar to what happened something like 5 weeks ago now, is that the Nations League got back underway. Squad was released a week this past Tuesday, we're recording this on the Monday the 5th of October. The game's on 8th of October this Thursday. The squad was released, I believe it was the 29th of September. Which is that Tuesday the last week? I might be wrong. Might have got that one wrong. But yes, slightly different squad. Well, I say slightly different. There isn't really too many changes, as you might have noticed already if you follow the squad, followed it when it brought out, had your own opinion about it, as most Scots usually do. But this being 3 games coming up, there is a slightly bigger squad. There's now 26 players, as opposed to the 24 that was initially selected for the last squad in early September, but was then reduced down to 23 as 2 strikers, as McBurney and Shankland were forced to drop out the squad, and Callum Patterson came in to replace, well certainly replace, but make up the numbers so to speak. So the 26 man squad, there are only 3 incoming faces and 1 that goes out through injury. James Forrest is obviously the one that has had to be withdrawn for injury. It's a huge shame for him, thinking a few weeks on the sidelines for Celtic. It's an awful shame that he's not going to be there, especially since he has more often than not played pretty well for Scotland. But unfortunately he does miss out on this occasion, and the 3 players coming in, Ryan Fraser makes his return after eventually finding a new club at Newcastle. Seems to be getting the odd game time here and there, but hasn't quite solidified himself as a starting place, but that's from what I see so far. But certainly he is back playing minutes, and more importantly playing minutes in the Premier League with a decent side. So Callum Patterson comes back into the squad after being brought in as a late replacement, like I said before. So he's back in the squad. What minutes he'll have in there, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, especially when we really go through the squad in detail in just a wee moment. And Ryan Porteous gets his first call up after a very good start to the season at Hibernian, who seem to be flying high in the Premiership right now, especially when you consider his performance against Rangers not too long ago. It was pretty solid. Obviously did concede a couple of goals, but it's very few occasions in which Rangers don't do that to you, don't score goals against you, and you have to concede as a result. So Other than that, the squad is very much the same. Yeah, lots of midfielders, lots of good talent in there, good players, but how do you put them as an 11 on the pitch? That's the biggest debate in Scotland. You can I follow a few Tartan Army pages myself. I look around, you very rarely get an 11 which everybody agrees on, or somebody says, oh, are you mad? Have you been sniffing something? Have you been doing this or that? You know, you very rarely find a formation, an 11, or any kind of combination of midfielders, defenders, centre half, strikers, whatever, where it's not going to be questioned or has generated a negative reply as a result. So obviously, three goalkeepers remain the same: Marshall, McLaughlin and McCrory. McCrory back in the squad again after Livingston seemed to be going on the up and up now. A good win the other night against Dundee United at Tannadice, followed up win over St Johnstone recently as well. So they seem to be going on the up and up after starting the first half dozen games at the bottom of the table. They seem to be going back up, so that's good. So it shows that he's in relatively good form, not conceding as many goals, and obviously, yeah, seems to be doing okay. McLaughlin as well, playing for Rangers, has obviously been very solid. Obviously started the second leg. I'm pretty sure he started the second leg against Czech Republic. No, maybe he didn't actually. It might still have been Marshall who played it. Yeah, my mind has kind of slipped me a little bit. I'm sure if I looked far enough in the archives, I'll probably will find it. Obviously, I say archives, it was only last month. And then obviously Marshall as well, been a stalwart as the number one over the last year or so. Well, certainly since Steve Clarke has been in charge, bringing him back and having his number one seems to have has done a very good job, and was one of the few standout players of the last international break where we got the 2 wins. Obviously you've got centre half, you've got Liam Cooper back in there. There's potentially a wee bit of a niggle going on there, which may well rule him out, certainly for the Israel game, and whether it will impact them going forward is another question. Declan Gallagher again in there. It's been a sort of so-so start for Hamilton. That will also apply to Stephen O'Donnell as well, so it's been a so-so start. Not quite been as high as they could have thought, especially with the business they've done in the window. Scott McKenna is an injury doubt, so it's going to be unlikely we see him, or so they're saying. They're keeping track of his fitness, but I'd be surprised if they risked him in such a high profile game. Although, you know, with it being the playoff final, they're going to prioritise that with Nations League, especially since they have the 4 points from the first 2 games, which is perhaps a little more than maybe they were perhaps expecting, considering Czech Republic away was the tie we all thought we would lose. So that's the centre halves. Obviously you could include Kieran Tierney there. Obviously been brilliant at Arsenal recently, really getting the plaudits, and has continued on from his good form. So what position he'll play, I'd imagine he'll slot in as like this left-sided centre back role, whether that be in the 2 centre halves or the 3, we'll see. Obviously Andy Robertson, the captain, speaks for itself, although obviously he was on the wrong side of a 7-goal batter, getting battered 7-2 by Aston Villa the other night. So yeah, not ideal going into such a big game for him. A lot of question marks over him in that game as well. Liam Palmer, not heard a lot about him, to be honest, since obviously since he's at Sheffield Wednesday. I'm not paying a huge amount of attention to the Championship, so I'm not exactly sure about who, but he's done okay for Scotland. Whether he'll be played over O'Donnell, or if there's going to be like Ryan Jack as well, he's obviously in the squad as we'll see later. Whether he'll have an involvement at some point, he probably will, considering that Steve Clarke seems to be a big fan of him. So we'll see how that works out. Greg Taylor making up the defenders there, who's been doing pretty well with Celtic recently, playing as the left wing back in the back five, but we'll obviously expect him to be second choice, third choice as left back, left wing back, depending on what formation we're playing. Moving on to midfielders, Armstrong has started pretty handily at Southampton this season, Stuart Armstrong, so you would expect him to get some minutes. Ryan Christie as well, yeah, obviously doing well at with Celtic over recent games. John Fleck seems to be doing okay at Sheffield United, although they have been a little bit inconsistent, and you know, but they've had some good performances, and he certainly seems to be playing okay. Ryan Jack, of course, he's been a little bit. There's obviously a big doubt with him. He's obviously had a bit of an injury layoff. Steve Clarke has obviously included him in the squad, which may well be trying to look at him towards maybe the later games, but I would imagine if Rangers have got anything to do with it, they might turn around and say we're not quite so sure. But I would imagine if anything was really that bad with Ryan Jack, then they would have probably stopped him from going in the first place. But you just don't know exactly what the mind is. John McGinn scored and created a couple the other night, or certainly scored one. I think he maybe created one or two as well. Certainly set up Jack Grealish for the the seventh goal rather as well. I mean, who would have thought would have said that, setting up for the seventh goal against the champions. So he's going in good form. Callum McGregor as well, obviously he's pretty infamous. Not too bad. Kenny McLean is one that's really the fact that they're sticking with him is a little bit of an odd one for me, and certainly for a lot of Scotland fans around the country. They're a bit like, he's not doing a huge amount. He's gone down with Norwich. Norwich haven't started that great in the Championship. They're persevering with him. Is there really much point? He's not as good as certainly the midfielders of Celtic, even Celtic midfielders, or the ones that are playing in the higher leagues in the Premiership the Premier League down south. So it's an interesting one. Scott McTominay, what role he'll have over this one, was obviously playing in the back three at times in the last break, so who knows. Obviously he's coming off a 5-goal defeat as well, although I don't think he might not have been involved. I haven't watched the game. I'm a United fan. I haven't watched the game, haven't really paid too much attention to it, so whether he was involved at the weekend or not, I'm not too sure, but certainly has had some minutes. I know he played against Luton, so yeah. Ollie Butt as well, recent move to Sheffield United. That was an interesting one. Seeing that he was getting Premier League minutes was an odd one. So I think he's kind of been in and out of the team, but yeah, I don't know. He might have some involvement, considering that we don't have a huge amount of wide players at the moment. Ryan Fraser, as we've said, who's in there, coming off some good minutes. Porteous is obviously in the centre half, so I might have missed him out. Forwards, look at Lyndon Dykes, doing pretty decent at Queen's Park Rangers as far as I'm aware, so obviously that move down south's been good for him. He's still pretty young, so expecting him to come on leaps and bounds in the future. Who else is in there? Callum Patterson, obviously we'll see what involvement he gets. Ollie McBurney, you'd expect to be thereabouts. So started okay, not great, but not terrible, I guess. Like, it's probably as good as you might expect. Sheffield United coming off a good season. They've got good expectations, but they're not quite hitting the heights now. They've not started the season the same way they did last season. So I don't know. It's an interesting one with him. And then finally we've got Lawrence Shankland as well. Has really started to find his feet in the Premiership this season and has started scoring a few goals. So that'll be exactly what Steve Clarke's wanting. And yeah, so that's obviously a good sign for him going forward, and certainly going into this period of games which are really important to the team. So excellent stuff. I'm going to go back and have a look at the Israel team. I think the only real things that I noticed from the Israel team were the fact that Biram Kayal wasn't selected. Now I don't know if this is because of, I'm not sure if this is because of a recent retirement. I know he must be getting on for a wee bit, so I don't know if this is also near Beaton not getting not getting a call. Well, I was going to say not getting a call up, but he's actually, I've just found out he withdrew from the squad with injury. So obviously not ideal for him. Biram Kayal was last called up in November last year, so he's now a free agent, as it turns out. I've just had a look. He's a free agent, 32 years old. Is Biram Kayal. He's only played for 4 clubs in America. So I just noticed that. I just wanted to double check and see that he was still playing international football, because obviously he played in the last Nations League campaign. Obviously scored that great goal at Hampden Park when I was there. Came out on the wrong side of the 3-2 defeat. Doesn't say anything about him retiring from the national team, so I don't know if it's because he's not got a club, not got a team, that he's not playing for the national team. It must be that. But apart from that, this seems to be the usual big names. The big thing that sticks out for me for the Israel team is the front three that they're probably going to start with in this game, and the front three that includes it will include Eran Zahavi, who's now at PSV. I've noticed. I know he was at a Chinese club not too long ago. Seemed to be buying them in for fun over there. So he's now in PSV. He's now at PSV Eindhoven, so he's probably going to be a big thing. He's 33 now. Manus de Boer is now at Hoffenheim. So he was a big name for them. And then Manu Solomon is a real talent. Manu Solomon's a really good talent. From what I heard, he showed some really good bright spells in the game at Hampden Park. So he showed that he was very dangerous. So certainly one to look out for, and someone that Scotland will need to be very wary of, and someone who I think can cause problems in the semi-final. Sean Weissman, I know, is a player that I'm aware of, but other players obviously Scottish football fans will be aware of. Obviously Ofio Marciano in goal. Whether he's the real first name on the team sheet, I don't know. Ariel Harouche is the obvious. I think he's the main number one for Israel, although he's also unattached. He's also a free agent, so whether that means that Marciano will get in based on match fitness is another question. It's probably the more likely scenario, but yeah, I'm no expert on Israeli football. I've noticed there's actually 5 uncapped players in this Israel squad, so that's certainly interesting to know. Asim Abd El Hamid, the Celtic centre half come left back. I know he's been playing a lot more at centre back for Celtic recently, and I think it was based on his performance at Hampden Park when he played as a left centre half in the back three. So that may be something to look out for, and something that may be, something that we might need to be a bit wary of, is just his experience as playing a centre half now. So yeah, that's kind of the things I picked out from the Israel squad at the moment. I'll probably look at more. I could probably maybe look at the Czech Republic team now, see exactly what the changes they've made recently, because I know that they'll obviously probably be back to more of a full strength team, and it looks like they kind of are. Project Schick's in there. He's back in the Czech Republic side. Tomas Susek, the West Ham United player. Matej Vidra, Burnley player. Yeah, seems to be more of the usual suspects, you could say, and more towards the full strength Czech Republic team that we were kind of weary of facing when the draw came out. So, and the team that obviously beat England in the last qualifying campaign. So that's going to be something we need to be wary of. Slovakia team, obviously we'll play Slovakia at home next, so that's on the Sunday. That's this coming Sunday. So that's going to be, again, a game that we could look towards winning, especially since the last time we played them we beat them 1-0, although it was a bit harder than we maybe made it look. We were pretty much on top of that game the whole time, but needed a very late game, very late winner. Marek Hamšík back in the squad as always, 120 caps he's got for them, playing in China now. Milan Skriniar is probably the biggest name at centre half. Stanislav Lobotka's in there, Napoli player. Robert Mack, I know he got sent off. He got sent off in the game at Hampden when early on, second booking for diving. So apart from that, not a huge amount of names. So not a huge amount of big names. So certainly, hopefully something that we can exploit on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think that after two what we consider poor performances over the last international break, that we're top of the table and 4 points from 6. I mean, we've got the hardest game out of the way, which is really good to think. Obviously, going away to Czech Republic, we all thought, well, we'll probably lose there. We won. Obviously, you can argue the circumstances of it all you want. We still won the game. Still got to beat what you got put in front of you, and it'll be much the same as what will happen in Hampden on Wednesday night. I think it is when we play them at home. And so 3 home games coming up. Hopefully, we'll get the semi-final win, and big confidence booster going into Slovakia and Czech Republic. And if we beat Slovakia as well, we've got 7 points. We're perhaps even making inroads and creating a little bit of distance between ourselves and the rest of the group. And if we get something against the Czech Republic, it'll be a great start. So 8 points from 12 games in this group, and we've got 2 really tough away games after that. So we're going to have to really make sure we take advantage of these home games and then press on, try and get some of the results away from home, which I know is not our forte as such, especially considering the last qualification campaign when we got hammered by Kazakhstan away. We're quite poor against Cyprus. Yeah, we can go into details all we want, but nonetheless, still have to be what we put in front of them. And yeah, that's kind of all I really need to say at the moment. So yes, guys. I mean, I know I had to get my refund on this game. It's a real shame I won't be there. I sold out at Hampden Park, but it is what it is. We're perhaps looking at further restrictions tomorrow in Scotland. We'll see what happens. But until then, guys, I'll probably be back on the Thursday night, if not the Friday, to review the game. I will be watching the game and certainly perhaps even reviewing it. Whether it'll be in good spirits or bad spirits, we'll see what happens. But nonetheless, guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, like I said earlier in the video, very start, if you've enjoyed the video, like I say, I'll be doing a lot more of these in future weeks, months, hopefully. I mean, I said that last time, didn't really work out too well, did it? But certainly, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will see you guys very soon, hopefully after a Scotland win at Hampden on Thursday night. Until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again very soon.